Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to another TXK Conversations, a part of the TXK State of Mind podcast. We have a little deviation from our normal weekly start time. Due to my work, it carries me different places sometimes, so I wasn't able to be on last week. But our guests graciously agreed to postpone and reschedule for today. So today we have another wonderful guest that's going to give us some informative information about her business, her vision, a lot about yoga and wellness, how it can impact our lives, how we can go about getting involved. So today I want to introduce Miss Jessica McCarty. She's going to be on to talk about her business Prodigy life. And so, Miss Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and excited to share with the community what we're doing and, how you can be part.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, I'm 39 years old. I have 2 children, my husband, and a cat, dog, and 3 fish. I've lived in Texarkana most of my life. I moved off in my early 20s to San Antonio, Texas, and I came back when I was 32 years old. And man, there's been some really cool things happen in my life since I moved back to Texarkana. And I never thought I'd come back. Didn't ever want to, but I truly believe that God brought me here, and it is to make an impact on our community.
All right. So give us some of the main topics you're excited to talk about as relates to your vision, your business, some of the things that you want people to know that are not familiar with the yoga and the wellness world. Just talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So I actually began my wellness journey when I was 18 years old. And then due to some traumatic events that happened in my life, I actually became a drug addict and an alcoholic. And my vision at that point, my destiny per se, kind of went down the drain. And then at 32, I was brought back, and I actually got pregnant with my son, and my doctor told me, hey, you need to learn how to chill out because you're stressed, your blood pressure's up. How about you go do some yoga? And I had taken yoga classes in college 2 years, actually 2 years, every Thursday, a 2-hour course of yoga. And so it's like, I know yoga. I even have a mat. I'm going to go home and practice. And at this point, I had given my life over to Jesus, and I knew that yoga actually had some roots in Hinduism and Buddhist and Jainism. And so I was like, well, how can I use movement and meditation in a form that is going to encompass my beliefs in Jesus Christ and also help me physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so I pulled out my Bible, put on some praise and worship music, and just started moving my body, working through some breath work. And shortly after that, I actually got thrown in to teach some friends, and they were like, you're so good at this, you should do this. So I found a school of yoga called Yoga Faith, and I went through a 200-hour training in Tacoma, Washington. I then went through what is called meditation and nidra, which is learning how to properly meditate, but also guiding people through meditation and guiding people through this 8-stage type meditation called nidra. And it's really to get the whole body to relax, the parasympathetic nervous system activated so that we can go into a state of calm and security. I went through a trauma sensitive training. So I work with people that have trauma. I went through a 500-hour master training and yin yoga. There's so many. And then finally, I'm finishing up with my yoga therapy training. So by the end of this, I'll have about 1,500 hours in total of whole body health, nutrition, fitness, yoga. And so I do consider myself an expert in all of these things. But again, I take it from a Christian perspective. And, so some of the things that we do are not your traditional Eastern yoga movements or breathwork meditation.
Right.
I wanted to take away anything that was not of God and bring in what is of Him.
That's right. So I think that's the biggest thing. When I first saw, I drive through downtown and I would see all the new things that are going in, and I saw the first starting of the work that was going on in your building. I was like, well, I wonder what's going on in there. And then as I kept driving through, I started seeing boxes come up. I saw people moving around. Then the next time I came through, I saw the sign. And it said Prodigy, and he had the nice little pose, and I said, And then I went on Facebook, and I kind of got to get to read a little bit about what this new business was going to be about, what this new addition to the downtown area that's assisting with this revitalization was going to be all about. And I learned that I didn't know too much about yoga. You see it on TV, sometimes you see it in movies. But what intrigued me the most is that it said that when we talked, when I tried to wanted to try to schedule for the show, you talked about you do faith-based yoga. And I want to get you to talk. We talked a little bit about it before we got on, but that's one of the things that intrigued me because our overall health is going to be in some form or fashion tied to our faith, our community, our well-being. So I wanted you to kind of talk about how you came about not going to more so the traditional routes of yoga, but imparting the faith-based aspect to what you're doing in the yoga scene.
Okay. Well, honestly, the whole reason that I went this route is because I surrendered my whole life to Jesus, and right. I did not want anything that was going to hinder my relationship with Him. And I know what Scripture says about keeping your body, your temple clean, pure, right. fit, keeping it well, because it is what houses the Holy Spirit. Right. And so for me, I can look in the mirror and I can see all the negative things about myself, right? Right. But I know if I am doing what I can physically, mentally, and spiritually, then I am doing what is pleasing to God. Right. And some people have a hard time understanding that. There are people who they don't move their bodies. They're very sedentary. Right. And what's going to happen to a sedentary body is going to become more sedentary, and eventually it's going to become lifeless. Right. And so here, the name is Prodigy Life because Prodigy, I call it that because Prodigy means a bright child. Right. Number one, I am a bright child of God. That's right. Number two, prodigy, meaning bright child, it actually comes from the word prodigal, which prodigal was the wayward child. It was a child that went off and went into the world and experienced the world. But before that child did that, he was raised in a great home. Right. He was raised in a place that taught him those morals and the honesty and all the things. And he left that and went to the world. He had experienced both lifestyles. And he chose life instead of death. That's right. And so he became a prodigy instead of a prodigal. That is how we got the name Prodigy Life. And my goal is to get people in here who are wanting to experience life here on earth, because eventually we're all going to die. And that's right. Where are we going to spend eternity? We have a choice here on earth to live our life the best we can. Right. And after this life, you either have light or darkness. And I'm going to choose light every single day. And so let's live our life the best we can here. And after that, we're going to live it really good. But, on top of all that, I know you had some questions about the vision.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm excited about getting there.
Okay. Because I know we were talking, and it's got kind of tied to your vision. We were talking earlier about how you got started and how you started at your home, and then you moved into a smaller building on the Boston Road, and then you came into this larger space that you're in now. And then you say you had a few people, and then it started to grow. Yes. And I think, and we were talking about how a lot of times in our assignments, God directs that. And then we're connected to people that he assigns to us. So your vision, it's not by happenstance that you moved into the yoga space and decided to go faith-based. And you went from a smaller location to a little bit larger location to now where you are now, so you can impact. And then I want to just talk about your vision, because you've been allowed not only just to impact people, but also to bring in people to assist you with impacting those people through your vision. So talk to us a little bit about your vision.
So, like you said, to reiterate, I started teaching out of my home. I had a home studio. Then during COVID, I moved into a little bit of a bigger building on New Boston Road to accommodate, social distancing and all the things. Right. And it was actually when I was in that building that I actually received a couple of prophetic words from some ministers that I knew, and even a couple of people that I didn't know at all, that they would just come up to me and tell me some things that, and they had revealed to me that they were Christians and that God had revealed something to them. And every time that I received these words of encouragement, it was when I was going through a really down time. It was when I'm like, God, is this what you want? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And it's like, he just knew that I needed that encouragement. And I'm going to get a little detailed here, but
go ahead.
We used to do pop-up shops in the mall. We did this 2 years in a row. And the first year that I did it, man, it was so busy. It was really awesome, but I was exhausted. And I was like, God, am I really supposed to be this tired doing this kind of stuff? This is hard. And a lady had come up. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. She said, I was mall walking with my sister, and I kept walking by here, and God told me I needed to come in here and tell you, this is not where you're supposed to be, that I have a space for you, a building for you, because I was contemplating moving into the mall at that point. So this was 2 Decembers ago. And then the following December, we did another pop-up shop. At this point, my husband had gotten really sick. I had had a miscarriage. There was some just bad stuff happening. And I was like, God, I don't think I could keep doing this anymore. December's hard. I mean, you're talking Christmas time. You just have a lot on your plate. And a lady came in who had taken some of my classes. She had sent some of her associates in to take some of my classes. And she said, I bought a building and I think you do really great in it. I'm going to contact you after the first of the year. And I said, okay, cool. And I'm like, man, this is really awesome. Like, this lady in December said, I've got a building. This lady saying, I have a building. And a few things happened in between the time that she said that and I got the call. And when she called me, she said, will you come and look at this building? And I was like, sure. So we came and looked at this building downtown, and I was just like, I would do this and I would do that and I would do this. And I was like, how much is all this going to cost? Because this is a lot. And my husband's been sick. We've gone through hell and back. And she said, oh, no, we're doing this for you. She said, we believe in what you're doing. And we're going to build this however you need it. And so we went through, it took almost a year. So we did our soft opening this December and a grand opening in January. And what we have here is still just a little part of the vision, because the vision that God has given me and the words of encouragement I have received are franchise. And he actually was so super cool. Within 2 weeks of each other, I had a girl that I knew from one of my trainings call me and say, hey, guess what? I've moved to Texas from California, where she was managing franchises for yoga studios. Another friend of mine calls me, hey, God's told me that I need to align with what you're doing. How can you use me? She's a business coach. And so we're doing this. I don't know how and I don't know when, but the vision is we will have places, all over the U.S. where people can come, because there are people that won't step foot inside of a church because they've been hurt.
Right.
They're atheists, agnostics, people who consider themselves spiritual, but they really don't know what they're searching for, who won't go into a church, who will not
Right.
listen to Christian friends, who maybe they'll come into a yoga studio, maybe they'll come into a place that seems more familiar, and they're going to notice, not just hear it, but they're going to notice the difference, feel the difference, the peace, the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I've seen it already happen where they give their lives over to the Lord because there's something different here that they're not getting somewhere else.
That's right. It's funny that you say that, because like I know we talked before, and I was talking about how some of your darkest moment was in San Antonio, and I spoke about how we just moved from San Antonio in this summer, and then it's like when I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about one of my mentors, one of my pastor now. He talked about how it's just wow. It just what you just saying is just tapping into a lot of things that I see. And then I know, like, when me and my wife, when we know God is working, things will get really, really tough and hard. Like, it was like be a lot of work. But when he starts putting things into play and start positioning people within our lives, things start to smooth out and it appear like it's getting easier. Not so much easy, but things will start to line up. And the vision that you've been seeing in your head and the things that you've been dreaming about and been praying about, they start to line up. And he putting people in place. And I think, like I said, your assignment is your assignment. You know, he has people directly connected to you that God wants to assist you with making that vision plain and making it clear so that you can be able to impact others. And so that in itself, that vision kind of establishes what the type of identity that you're going to have for your business, whether it be through franchises, through having additional people come in and help you grow. Your vision is starting to line up. And I think a lot of times people look at the church as just being that brick and mortar building that you go to every Sunday. But God didn't have that. His church was everywhere. It was broad and wide. It spanned numerous miles, and it covered multiple races, religions, types of people. And it wasn't just specific to one. So I think a lot of times our assignments are his way of getting us aligned to help the people that he wants to reach out to, that's connected to us. We have an extended family that we know that one person can do it all. So he assigns people to us. I think through your Prodigy life, through yoga, even though it may be controversial to some, I think that's the way God is going to allow you to reach the most impact for the people that are coming in contact with you.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about, like, a lot of other things that were like the drug addiction and those dark times, and how the light that you have in your business is a light amongst a lot of other things that are going on downtown within our revitalization. But what are some of the other things that you're passionate about that's directly connected to your business, your vision, and the path that you're on right now, and that your trajectory is taking you?
So yoga encompasses so much, and I don't think that people realize that. Like, Westerners, they look at yoga as, oh, you're doing these crazy pretzel movements, and no, I can't do that because I'm not thin and I can't touch my toes. But
Right.
yoga, actually, there's so much to it that, gosh, I mean, it would take years to explain. I mean, it's taken me years to go through the trainings that I have. But the things that I'm passionate about as far as overall wellness is, which we did talk about earlier, is, I was a drug addict and I was an alcoholic. I was that for many years, and it affected my body even to this day. We have consequences to our actions, and I've got fatty liver disease because of alcoholism. I have crippling anxiety at times where I'll have panic attacks, and it's because of drugs that I use that, it skewed my central nervous system to where my nerves don't do the things right like they should. I have a heart for people who deal with addiction.
Right.
There's a 12-step program through the School of Yoga that I went through, and it's like a 12-step program, like Celebrate Recovery and things like
Right.
that. But having been there and done that, I know that struggle. And one of the things that I really want to bring in, and I actually do bring it into, because I can't serve food and beverages, but we do have these girl night out. And so I
Right.
actually have like cans of different types of prebiotic drinks that we, as part of our girls night out, and we'll mix some like Rocosta tart cherry juice with it, or we'll mix together, something else like some
Right.
elderberry, or we'll have bottled juices that they can drink on. So these are your healthy choices for having drinks with the friends. These
Right.
are your mocktails. Another thing like we have here at the studio is we have a Halo IR sauna. It is a 6-point sauna, which is nowhere here in Texarkana or 150-mile radius around us. It is called Halo because it shoots Himalayan salt into the sauna. So you're breathing in these particles of Himalayan salt. It's coming onto the skin. So it actually helps with upper respiratory issues like long COVID, COPD, bronchitis, asthma. And then it also helps with psoriasis and eczema. The sauna has infrared panels, so it's helping you to detox. So you're sweating out all that bad stuff. It
Right.
helps with weight loss. It helps with joint health. Then it has a red light tower, so you're reproducing collagen. That also helps with tendons and ligaments. It has chromotherapy, which changes different colors during your time in there, and each color actually has different medicinal benefits.
Okay.
There's aromatherapy, so we're using essential oils for it to smell good, and then we play sensory music through the speaker. So it's a 6-sense sauna, and it's super amazing. I could live in it.
I need to try that out.
So, and also like even in our studio, we are trying to hit the senses. So with my yoga therapy training, the part that interests me the most is the neuroscience.
Right.
So one of our teachers was actually Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she is this amazing neuroscience. If you've never heard of her, you need to look her up. But we get to learn about, your olfactory senses. There's one called somatomatic. Now I'm not going to say it right. Somatomatic. And it's actually touch therapy. So there's a difference between touch therapy and massage. So we do implement touch therapy into our classes. We have lights that change color. We offer different heat levels. So it is a sensory experience when you come into our studio.
Okay. Okay. Talk a little bit about some of your instructions. I know you just mentioned one. Talk a bit like there's different specialties. Are they doing like certain classes? Do they have certain different, I guess, genres of yoga that they perform? Or talk a little bit about them.
So we have one instructor who specializes in yin yoga. So yin is a type of class that it's actually best taken early in the morning to help wake up the joints. We do offer class on Thursday night though, and Friday morning. And you're holding these different poses for anywhere between 1.5 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
And most of them are done on the floor. So they're floor exercises, and it's really an inward experience. So, a lot of what we do in yoga is mental. we're having to tell ourselves we can do this. Like we've got this. And in yin, it is an inward dive of, okay, I can hold this for 2 more minutes. But at that same time, she's actually reading scriptures to you.
Okay.
And so you're getting to meditate on that scripture. So you're not all the time like, how long am I going to have to do this? You're actually listening to these
Focusing on the
scriptures.
word. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Jenny. She teaches that. She's actually the director of the Texas Literacy Council. So she
Okay.
does a lot in our community.
Jenny Mack, I know her.
You do
Yeah.
know Jenny Mack, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've got Janice. She is actually our retired, a little bit mature instructor. She
Right.
teaches our chair yoga class, which she has a set script that she goes by for chair yoga. And all the moves are done with a chair. This is really great for those with limited mobility. Or those who might just want a more relaxing class, honestly. We have a signature class, and there's actually only 2 of us right now that teach it because it's very intense. And it's going to be for those who really want a little bit more like exercise to their yoga. It is a sensory experience. We change the lights. There's more so instrumental music, and it's a time of let's get our fitness on. We have a chill flow that is taught by Stephanie and Rebecca, and it's just we don't turn on any heat. There's aromatherapy. It's slow. It's gentle. There's a lot of devotion to
Gotcha.
it. We have a rest and restore class, which basically you're on the floor with pillows, taking mini 5 to 10 minute naps in different relaxing forms. And
Gotcha.
we can pretty much all teach that. And then I actually have an instructor who came over. She's a professional dancer. She's been teaching
Okay.
dance for 20 years, and she is actually taken on, we have bar classes. So it is a professional ballet fitness class.
Okay.
She also teaches, we have what is called a yoga wall. And so it is a wall that is built into our studio that has different hookups. And we use it, she uses it to teach wall Pilates. And
Okay.
then I use it as yoga therapy with my one-on-one sessions. So I
Gotcha.
teach people how it's really great for those that have a hard time getting up and down off the ground, but also for those who want to have a challenging practice because you can hang upside down on it and do all kinds of fun things. We have
Okay.
an aerial yoga class.
I was
So
going to ask you about that.
the aerial yoga is very new to the community, but our classes for that, we only have 4 people that can come to class plus the instructor. And so nobody that I've had in class has experienced it. So we're a very beginner with it. And honestly, my favorite pose in that is just laying in the hammock, swinging, watching the lights change color, and hearing a sound bowl.
Okay.
Because you're like being hugged in a cocoon, and it's amazing. But we can teach you how to flip upside down and do all kinds of
Okay.
stuff.
So that's the one I was wondering about. So I said, that's interesting. I'm a big boy. I don't know if I don't know if I might mix well with that, but that was interesting. Aerial
Yeah.
yoga. So
The
when
weight
I was
limit on
doing my
that's
research,
350 pounds.
I'll fit right in.
Then we do pound classes. So this is taught by Greta, who's my professional dancer, and we have Tina Elrod that she actually teaches at Legacy as well. And
Okay.
it is a cardio dance fitness with the drumsticks.
Oh,
And so you're like drumming and dancing and moving and grooving. And then last but not least, I wanted to talk about our sound baths.
okay.
So I have a full set of crystal sound bowls. So I've studied sound therapy for quite some time. I am not a musician, but I do have an ear for sound and how sound can be used in healing ways. Just like we listen to music and it can make us feel a certain way, different notes and different frequencies can actually affect our nervous system in different ways. And so I actually have in 2 weeks, on the 23rd, we're doing a multi-sensory experience to include the sound therapy. And so you'll hear the sound bowls as you're receiving touch therapy, and the lights will be changing, and you'll have the aromatherapy going on, and it's really cool. Probably nothing like you've ever experienced, but I invite you to come, Jeremy.
Yeah. I was telling my wife, I said, we got to go experience it. Gotta check it out. We never did yoga before, and then this would be different for us because we can tie in the yoga and tie in the faith-based as well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and in the sensory experience, you don't have to move at all. Like, you just lay there. So it's
all
really
right,
cool.
all right. That's interesting. I'm definitely gonna get with you. I know in my first interview of when we started the first episode, his main thing, because he do like the different fresh pressed juices and things of that nature in the community that he's selling. And I think one of the biggest aspects for him with his business was wellness. And I know one of the lines that I saw on one of your advertisements on your Facebook was make wellness a lifestyle.
Mhm.
Before we end, tell me a little bit about that. How can we do that? How do you want to help your customers, people that are interested? How can they make wellness a lifestyle?
So, as I was saying earlier, I was a drug addict and alcoholic. And, a lot of times those come with certain personality types.
Right.
And not always, but a lot of the times it does. And if we can change that desire of constantly picking up something and doing something, I mean, we have this hand to mouth thing, constantly eating, constantly looking at phones. If we can change that experience from it being a negative thing, because if we scroll on our phones too long, it affects us mentally. If we're comparing ourselves because we're looking through social media constantly, it affects us. If we're picking up food and like eating where we're not even thinking about it. I mean, like I was so busy one week that I was like, did I even like bathe my kid? Did I brush my teeth while ago when I was in the bathroom? If we are our community, not just this community, but America as a whole, we have become so overwhelmed with multitasking. And I actually look at multitasking negatively because we were taught, hey, if you can do all of these things, then you're a great person, you're productive.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you look back before technology became like a huge thing, before we were introduced to packaged foods and stuff like that, our lives were slower. There was nothing wrong with that. If we look at the life of Jesus, he walked slow. He ate with his friends. He had community. He wasn't sitting there like, huh? What'd you say? He was involved. He had conversation, meaningful conversation. And it wasn't a constant, let me do better than this person over here. I mean, even talks, if you read in the Bible, he moved slowly. He didn't run to his next location to start preaching. He wasn't a man of a lot of words, but the words that he spoke
impact.
Yes. And so when we think about wellness, it's not just about how much we exercise, what we eat and drink. It is a mindset. It is how are we going to better our lives and better the lives of our children? And because they're the ones that are going to keep this world going, and if we continue to ignore them because we're too busy doing all the other things, what's going to happen?
You're right. I think we forgot about the important things. We forgot about caring for one another. We forgot about caring for the community, this world to a certain extent. I tell my daughter all the time, she was just talking about multitasking Sunday. And like she was trying to be on the phone and the tablet and the iPad. And she said, I'm multitasking. I said, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as multitasking. I say, you're giving a little bit here, giving a little bit here, but you're not focusing on what gets the thing done as the main thing, keeping the main thing the main thing. And a lot of time we don't do that. We got all these other things going on, and we never can focus on handling that one thing to finish it to the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's that. Like that's what we've gotten in the community. That's what we've gotten in our society, where it's all about that immediate gratification, and we want it now, now, now. And there's no time to stop and do yoga. There's no time to read the word and meditate. Well, I wouldn't say there's not time. We're not making the time to do things like yoga, to meditate, to go for a walk, to sit down and just rest and be still and have that peace, be still, and just look to see what our next direction is, or what our assignment is, and what we're supposed to be doing. And so that's why I was really intrigued about your business. Like I said, when I first started driving this, saw the development, saw it starting to grow. And then I saw the sign, and that stood out because it's got that glow and has that image. And you look up, it's like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that you talked about earlier, when you go into different places, you want people to be able to see the impact that you're having, or they leave there with something. And I think one thing that my pastor said a couple of weeks ago, he presented us a question about the church. He said, do you want people who come to the church to leave breathless or out of breath? Meaning, breathless is that they're coming there and they want to be able to come back and know more and know that the spirit is there. Or are they leaving there so exhausted that they don't want to come back at all? And that kind of spoke to me when you talk about there's so many people out there that are not going to go to the church. They're not going to go to the traditional church, but they still believe. They still want to know more. So how do we connect with them? How do we connect them to the source?
Well, let me tell you this. Number one, I want to say this. Wellness equals intentionality.
Right.
So when it comes to living that lifestyle wellness, you have to be intentional. We have to listen to our bodies. We have to slow down enough to be able to hear what our body is telling us. Just for instance, today I said to myself, I'm like, I want a cup of coffee. And I've been trying to reduce the amount of coffee that I take in, because I've learned that it actually does a lot of negative things to me personally. And so it was my mind saying I want a cup of coffee, but my body was actually, no, herbal tea. And so I came to the studio and I had some herbal tea instead. And I felt so much better. I felt lighter. But then on top of what you just said about what your pastor said, so we actually have a class, and I didn't talk about this class, and it's called Yoga Church. And that's kind of weird, I know, but this is a class that's not going to be the same every time. It's going to be based on who's in that classroom. And we open with prayer requests. We talk about good things that God's doing in our lives. We spend time in community, just praying for each other and talking about these things. And then we do a little bit of movement just to, move any type of issues in the tissues out. While we're doing that, we're listening to praise and worship music. We're raising our hands and we're just praising the Lord. We sometimes spend time flat on our face in worship to him. Sometimes we're on our knees, and all of those are yoga poses. And that's what people don't understand. Like, all of these things that we do in church, they're actually forms of yoga. And we have church. There are people praying out loud. There's people praying for each other. And it's really awesome. And I've actually incorporated a time each week where we actually just open the studio, put on some praise and worship music. And if you want to come in on Wednesdays between 1 and 3 o'clock, and maybe you bring your Bible, maybe you want to dance, maybe you want to praise, maybe you want to cry. The studio is open for that. And that's for anybody. That's, you just come in, you need some time with Jesus. You can come and do it. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's a good way to reach those that don't have a real connection, but want one.
Yes.
So, man, this has been a great interview. I learned so much about your business. I learned a lot about you, your vision, your passion for what you're doing. So how do people get connected with you? How do they sign up for the classes?
So we actually have an app. You can go
Okay.
to your Apple or Samsung phone, and it's Prodigy Life. We have a website, prodigylife.com. Our phone number is listed on there. Our address, downtown 200 East Broad. So yeah, we actually, even on our app, we have videos that you can do from home. And yeah.
All right. It's been a wonderful time. I really appreciate you coming. We definitely are going to come out and try to check you out. One of the things I do at the end of our shows is that I always, when I go back and edit, I always put information about how to get in contact, how to be able to, the people can go and connect with you so they can get involved if they want to. So that's going to be part of the credits, the contact information about the business, the location, the hours, some of the classes that you offer. So hopefully the people that are listening, I had some involvement in the chat that's here. So hopefully the people got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Prodigy Life, your vision, the projection that you have for yourself for the future. And I believe that you're going to get there. Your vision is being directed, and you keep doing what you're doing and just keep listening to what the Father's saying to you, and you're going to get where you need to be. There's always going to be naysayers of people that may come against, but he went against that too. You just got to hold strong.
Yes.
So you just got to hold strong. But again, I thank you for joining us. To the audience, next week, we're going to have another informative conversation with Ms. Taryn Chambers-Gavan. She's with Divergent Educational Consulting. She's going to be on here to talk about all the things she's doing, from her latest book that's out, to her scholarships, to all the wonderful things she's doing in the educational world. So again, everyone, I thank you. I thank you, Ms. McCarty, for coming on. And TXK, what's your state of mind? Thank you.